Gen Z is having less sex than any generation in history. And you know why? It's not because of STIs. It's never been safer to have sex than right now. In my lifetime, there have been 6 major breakthroughs that have fundamentally changed sex and made it so much safer. And I'm going to tell you what those are right now. The first one was in 1981 when I was just a little baby boy, and that's the hepatitis B vaccine. Hepatitis is a rather serious infection. What a lot of people don't know is that it's 50 to 100 times more infectious than HIV, and it can cause very serious illness and even liver cancer. But the vaccine has been a huge success. Now, in 1991, it became a regular part of childhood vaccination. So if you're 20, 25, 30 years old, then guess what? And live in the United States, I should add, you're probably vaccinated, but you should definitely ask your physician if you are. And if you're older than that and you missed it as a child, you can probably get it now, so be sure to talk to your doctor. Hepatitis vaccine is the first thing that has made sex so much safer. Next is Valtrex, also known as valacyclovir, which came about in 1995. Now, this medication suppresses the herpes simplex virus. It doesn't prevent it, but if you do have herpes simplex virus type 1 or type 2, valacyclovir can help to suppress the virus. What does that mean? It can mean fewer outbreaks or potentially even 0 outbreaks, which means less pain. Also means less risk of transmission. So if you're someone living with herpes right now and you're worried about spreading it to a partner, then valacyclovir should be something that you definitely talk to your physician about. Valacyclovir, 1995, made sex much safer. In 2006, we got the HPV vaccine. Now, if you're not familiar, HPV stands for human papillomavirus. It's a whole family of viruses, and this vaccine protects against the most dangerous ones. What do I mean? Well, there are certain strains that can cause warts, certain strains that can cause cancer. Now, when the vaccine first came out, it was only offered to girls and then later to boys. So it's going to depend upon not only your age, but your gender. If you were protected as like a preteen, which is typically when it's given, but you should definitely talk to your doctor and confirm if you've been vaccinated and pursue it, even if you haven't. But no doubt about it, the HPV vaccine 2006 has been a gift from the science gods as far as saving people's lives. In 2012, PrEP came along. That is pre-exposure prophylaxis. That reduces the risk of HIV to near 0. This was developed primarily by the United States government along with Gilead, the pharmaceutical company. Little known fact, the government provided enough of the data that they could have had a patent on it, but instead they just let Gilead have the patent on it, and Gilead has cleaned up. But regardless of who's making money, it has saved countless lives around the world. PrEP reduces the risk of HIV down to 0. If you are someone that is of high risk of HIV, you should absolutely, in my opinion, be pursuing PrEP. In 2013, hepatitis C could be cured. This was a huge breakthrough. Hepatitis C causes cirrhosis, liver failure, liver cancer. But because of direct-acting antivirals developed around 2013, 2014, it's now curable in 95% of cases, which is absolutely miraculous. You know, I hate to get off track here, but I just can't help but think that as we're going through each one of these treatments, and then in some cases cures, that some people were just a victim of their time. There were people in the past who would have lived a much longer, happier, healthier life had they had access to the type of healthcare and scientific breakthroughs that we have today. But 2013, 2014-ish, direct-acting antivirals, and now hepatitis C is almost always curable. In 2023, DoxyPEP came along, and DoxyPEP reduces your risk of gonorrhea, chlamydia, and syphilis. You take it after sex. It's the antibiotic doxycycline, which has been around since the 1970s, and instead of taking like a week's amount, which you would need to cure chlamydia, you take just 1 dose within 72 hours after sex, and it pretty dramatically lessens your risk of contracting one of those bacterial STIs. So let's say you're exposed to it. You have unprotected sex with someone, and he or she happened to have chlamydia. Okay, you take 1 dose of doxycycline, 200 milligrams, within 72 hours afterwards, and it cuts your risk of contracting chlamydia in that case by about 80%. Amazing. And you know what? Since it's been released, well, prior to its release, STI rates were increasing in the United States. For the past 3 years, they've been decreasing pretty steadily. And nobody knows for sure if that's because of DoxyPEP, but we can all sort of guess that that is true. So the life-changing, if not life-ending ones of Hep B, Hep C, HPV, and HIV, basically completely manageable, if not completely preventable. And that is something we could not even imagine. So why is Gen Z having less sex? Well, there's theories everywhere in terms of cheap dopamine from clicks and electronics to not having enough money to just all around depression about who knows why. But there's one thing I do know. It can't possibly be about concerns about STDs, because sex has never been safer than it is right now, thanks to all the medical breakthroughs that I have talked to you about today. And I think it's important to realize that at the end of the day, sex is supposed to be fun. Life is short. You're going to die of something, but it's almost certainly not going to be an STI. And we can all thank science for that. Thank you so much, everybody, and we will talk soon.